Hi, my name is Jill Toynton. I'm one of the specialist speech and language therapists from the Language Communication Interaction Service, and today I'm going to be explaining to you how to use a word map or a word wizard with secondary school students. This word wizard could be used by teachers or teaching assistants in the whole class or within a small group or individually, and it can also be used printed out and used on paper, or it could be used electronically and remotely if teaching is taking place that way. When we start teaching vocabulary, it's really important to choose the words carefully that we select to teach. The words should be words that are really useful, so likely to be encountered again in spoken or written language, and usually words that adults would use in a conversation. Sometimes we want to choose words that are topic specific, but they should be integral to the understanding of the topic. We want to teach these words using the same kind of sequence, and I'm going to show you on the screen a sequence to use. It's not crucial which order things are done in, but it's better that things are done in the same order each time. The reason for this is so that students can begin to internalize their working towards understanding a word. The ultimate aim is that they can start to ask these questions of themselves so that they can teach themselves words in future. It's really important to be aware when we're teaching vocabulary that we need to teach 3 different aspects of the word. We need to teach the sounds in the word, maybe that's including each sound, but the syllables in the word, so that the young person is clear what the word sounds like and is able to say it themselves. We also need to teach the grammatical role that the word plays within a sentence, so that the child knows how to use the word in future. And we also need to teach the morphology of the words. So that is the kind of parts that are made, the word is made up of, with maybe a prefix, the bit at the beginning, or the suffix at the end. And there's one more thing, as well as the 3, is the spelling of the word, which is important. It's important to make sure that the child or the young person has a record of the word that they've learned. But it's up to you whether you want to complete the word map as a group with you recording it, or whether you want the students to actually have their own record of the word map. Sometimes it takes a really long time for students to record things, and if their writing's not very legible, then it's not really worth the time spent. It's better to provide a copy that you have made. You also want to make this process as interactive as possible, but remember that you're teaching the word, not testing them. So it's likely they're not going to know the word, and you might be deepening their knowledge of what that word is. I'm now going to talk you through using the word with my example. So the word that I've chosen to explain to you and use as an example is disapprove. So looking at this word map, you can see that I've brought the word up at the top. So the first thing you would do is ask the students if they've heard the word before. Where did they read it? Where did they see it? And what was it used to talk about? So here you're trying to get a sense of their understanding of the word. And sometimes at this point, you'll realise that they're talking about a completely different word. And this is where you can iron out those misunderstandings. So the word is disapprove. They might think it is prove or improve, approve. So you're making sure that they've got a clear sense of the word. You're going to then get them to say the word and split it into syllables. So you can write it in this way, and you might want to clap out the word disapprove to help them split it into syllables, write it out that way so they can see that it's a 3-syllable word. You can also talk about the sounds that are in the word, the sound that it starts with, the sound it ends with, exploring the phonology of the word. Then you will get the student to write the word, and that might be in a workbook or in their mind map that they're doing either on a piece of paper that you've printed or on an electronic format. Then you're going to think about the meaning of the word. And here I'm going to show you a useful dictionary that you might want to consult. It's really important that before you teach the word, you have a good understanding of how you're going to explain it. Because even though we know the meaning of words, sometimes explaining it is actually much harder than we think it's going to be. So now you can see the Collins Co-Build Learner's Dictionary, which is really useful for working out how you're going to teach vocabulary to students. It's really good because it has simple definitions, lots of example sentences, and also there's a facility for hearing the word. So if students want to go back and remind themselves how the word is heard, they can also use this dictionary. It's free online and the link is on your slide. Okay, so to go back to our slide, now we're in this area, so we're thinking about the meaning of the word. You've previously looked in a dictionary and you're going to give some simple ideas about what the word means. So to disapprove is to dislike something, to not be pleased with something. It's often about behaviour, and it's about something you think is bad or wrong. So it's really good at this point to link it to your own experience and try to link it to that of the student. So I could say sometimes my children, they're teenagers, they are on their phones really late at night, and I really don't like it. I think it's bad for them, and so I disapprove of them being on their phones late at night, and I try to take them away. I don't really like, another example is that I don't really like very violent films, and I'm not sure they're good for people to watch. So I could say I disapprove of violent films. Other examples might be drink driving, all sorts of things that you disapprove of. So it's good to think of your own example and encourage students to think of things that maybe they disapprove of at this point. Okay, so the next thing is to provide a symbol or a picture. Sometimes this is quite tricky. It's good to think in advance about this if you can. I've chosen a picture from Google. Widget online is also a good resource for getting symbols for students to use. So we are connecting it to a picture because obviously that sort of multi-pronged approach to helping students learn things is really useful. The next thing we're going to think about is the prefix and root and suffix. So this is the morphology of the word, what it's made up of. And we can see that disapprove has a prefix of dis, okay? And that often makes it an opposite of something. The root word is approve. So that's the kind of main meaning of the word, but dis makes it the opposite. So disapprove. If we approve of something, it means we agree with it, or we think it's okay. Okay, then we're going to think about words with the same root. And these might be approval or disapproving, and students might have heard of some of these words. Okay, the next part is around thinking about what kind of word it is. And this is really important so that students can use the words correctly in sentences. They need to know what grammar, the grammar of the word. So we'd encourage them to think about how they would know what kind of word it was. So if it's something you do, then it's a verb. So is disapprove something that I do? Yes, it is. So it is a verb. Other ways that we can help them is if it describes something, it's usually an adjective. If it's a thing, something you can hold or touch, or something you that comes with the in front of it or a, then it's going to be a noun. So helping them understand, that's useful for when they come across unknown words as well. The next thing you're going to do is to get them to think about what kind of thing, context they might come across this word in. And I've put, I don't know if you would agree with this, but older people talking about younger people, there can be a sense of disapproval sometimes, but also younger people can disapprove of things that older people do as well. And so if people are talking about things they don't agree with, so it could be politics, it could be all sorts of behaviours that people don't like. And so you could encourage them to think about that, maybe think about a story that you know they've read where there was some disapproval of behaviour. The final part of our word map is the sentence creation. And this is really, really important because we can't use a word unless we know how to. So if we as adults learn a new word, we need to learn how to use it in a sentence and to be fully competent at using that word. So it's really much better if the students can think of their own sentence. It needs to be one that kind of demonstrates the meaning as much as possible. So sometimes you might want to give them a sentence starter. So for example here, my teacher disapproves of, and that might be something they can think about. Well, what does your teacher not like doing or you doing, or what are the things that your teacher doesn't agree with? But your sentence starter could be anything where it gives them a chance to think of their own ideas to make their own sentence. So it might be, my teacher disapproves of students interrupting her when she's speaking. My parents disapprove of. So help the students to create their own sentence which has meaning for them. The final thing to say is that once you've taught a word, it's really important that you revise the word with the students regularly so that that word stays alive for them. There's lots of different games and ideas for doing this, and you could ask your speech and language therapist to give you some suggestions of activities of how to revise those words. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been useful for you.